Most of you, maybe some may not know me formally, but I'm Michele, and Amber and I are both certified coaches and put our heads together and our hearts together and decided several weeks ago that we wanted to provide a forum where people could come together, especially during these unprecedented times, for complimentary coaching, some support, but most importantly, what we call virtual community. So these weekly Wednesday webinars will be an ongoing series. Every Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:30, we're going to have a variety of topics that we believe are going to be extremely relevant and important to you, looking at just different facets of your life, from professional development to leadership, health and wellness, financial, you name it. So we are pleased that today we have a special guest. I'm going to let Amber introduce herself in just a moment, but just to let you know, Camille's son is going to be our special guest today. Oftentimes in our webinars, it will be either a special guest is invited, or it will be Amber and I speaking to some areas that we have expertise in. So today's talk, let me pause. So let me pass the mic on to you, Amber. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll take the mic back over and introduce our special guest.
Great. Hey, everyone. Many of you I know. For those of you I don't, welcome, and it's nice to meet you. My name is Amber Lee Forrester. I am at The Flow Coach on social media. I am a life, career, and business coach. I work with small business owners and most frequently with women and helping them to find their flow. And what does that mean? That means helping them to find out how to realize how to maximize on their strengths and how to create a sustainable lifestyle for well-being that works for them. So I am happy to have you with us. As Michele said, we'll be doing this weekly. So I'm actually going to update the schedule on the webinar link where you'll be able to see the topics for the next 5 or 6 weeks. And we, as Michele mentioned, have some really good stuff coming up. So we're hoping that our community continues to grow throughout this time. We found that, we enjoy getting together with you, and you guys are getting a lot from this, so we'll keep doing it. And if you have an idea for a topic while we're on, please feel free to put that topic recommendation in the chat so that we know how to continue to build on this going forward. So thanks. I'll give the mic back to you, Michele.
Thanks, Amber. So I'll set a bit of the foundation of today and why we're so honored that Camille could join us. Camille, I'll let her speak a lot more about what her expertise and experience is, but she and I are colleagues. She's a vice president of sales with about 100 people on her team. She's got, I think maybe 10 direct reports, but she is managing this crisis in an incredible way, which is one of the reasons why Amber and I felt that she would be the perfect person to share some insights and best practices. The whole topic is around crisis management. We are living in such unprecedented times, and within our businesses, small or large, being able to demonstrate the right skills and behaviors, not only as a leader, but possibly even as a member of a team is critical. And oftentimes, even during normal conditions, leadership in and of itself can be a challenge, but certainly with the types of challenges and changes that we're having to adapt to, it really takes a special leader in order to be able to kind of manage that. So that is sort of the impetus. Camille, is there anything else that you want to share about your background? I do have a question that I want to pose to maybe, jumpstart your talk, but is there anything that you want to add?
I would just add, thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past year, Michele, and Amber, meeting you recently. And I'm just honored that you all invited me to be on your program today. I'm sure I'm going to learn as much as I share. That tends to be the way it is these days with everything going on. And all I would say is, even though I've been in a leadership role almost 30 years now, I've never experienced anything quite like this. And so I'm actually surprising myself of where I'm drawing from to get through these times. So I look forward to sharing that with this group, and we'll kind of navigate this together.
Okay, sounds like a plan. All right, so I'll ask a question just to kind of kickstart your thoughts, and then I'll just let you have the runway. So as I mentioned, you know, we're really working and living under very unnormal conditions. What type of actions or behaviors should a leader be mindful of under these circumstances?
You know, naturally, I would start thinking about the people that work for me, because I'm more of a servant leader. But I think in these times, Michele, the way I would start this answer is really looking at myself. You know, you always hear, you know, when you get on an airplane, that you need to put the oxygen mask on first. And I think that I have to be in a really good place myself when I'm working with my team, to be able to hold that space, you know, in talking with people, because there's a lot going on. I'm happy to talk about some of the things that I'm doing for myself, if that's helpful at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Take it away.
Okay. Well, I also, just besides being a corporate executive, also am a yoga teacher, and I draw from that quite a bit during this time. I've been meditating every morning for over 20 years. And so I find that that foundation of meditation is playing a key role for me these days. I get up in the morning and I meditate like I always have. But I'm finding that during the day, I'm having to take a break and go meditate, or in the evening meditate. And what it's helping me do, Michele, is just like we eat food, we have to digest it and eliminate it. And there's so much going on with emotions and news that I need a way to digest that type of information and those emotions. And the meditation practice is really helping me digest those emotions and eliminate those emotions to make more room to allow more in. So that's one key thing I'm doing that has been extremely helpful. Other things are pretty practical things, right? Get out, get some exercise, social distance, but get some sunshine, get some fresh air, get into nature. So I try to do that every single day. Making sure that I get enough sleep. And not too much. You know, there is a tendency sometimes to slow down now and sleep more, or some people have anxiety and aren't sleeping enough. I think it's important that we find a way to get enough sleep and enough rest. The other thing is, you know, making sure I'm drinking plenty of water and staying hydrated and trying to eat as healthy as I can. And then finally, I'm just constantly looking for things to bring joy into my life. And sometimes that's giving, you know, kindness to someone else. Sometimes it's being grateful for small things, but, you know, finding fun and joy in my life is really helping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I really want to give you this runway. You know, when we were having our preparation conference call, you, Amber, and myself, you really were very deliberate in identifying sort of 10 behaviors or actions. So I'm going to just let you run with it, because I think that the way you categorize them will be very helpful, and in whatever way you sort of want to explore. So if you could sort of follow through on the remaining 9 tips. The first one that you made reference to is self-care, right? All of what you talked about, the yoga, the you know, time to reflect and meditate. What might be action number 2?
Well, once I've got myself in a good place, or, you know, the other thing is, Michele, sometimes I just tell my team, I'm not in the best place right now. Please bear with me. You know, I think we all know somebody that has been sick from this. I have a friend right now that actually is in the ICU on a ventilator. And so there are moments that I just can't be there for everybody else. I need to take a moment for myself. And I think part of it is being okay to share that with people. But that once that self-care piece is, which is really important, I think the next piece for me is listening. And it's easy to say listening, but it's being totally present, deeply listening, you know, really trying to acknowledge where people are and help them feel heard when you're not there live with them, right? When you're listening to them over the phone. You mentioned earlier that I've got a group of 100 people. I cover 13 states. And so everyone is at a different place, because some states, like the state of Washington, had the outbreak earlier, where some of my other states weren't impacted as early. And so it's making sure that I'm not like coming in assuming anything, and I'm really hearing and acknowledging with no judgment where they are. The other thing I learned through this is people want something that's predictable, because everything is constantly changing. And so I, early on in the very beginning, this was like March 12th, so it seems like eons ago, but really just a month ago, I set up a daily call in the afternoon for 30 minutes with no agenda, but just to check in with my team, hear them, hear what was going on, be able to have a venue for them to vent or express what they needed, so I could figure out what to do. In addition, I had a very frequent one-on-one calls with my leadership team, especially, like I said, in Washington. I was talking to the leader in Washington multiple times a day. And so it's really just staying in really close contact with people, so that you've got a pulse on what's happening and what's changing, so you know how to lead through it. I think that makes kind of explains kind of what I mean by listen. I think the next thing, I touched on it a minute ago, but it's being real, like being vulnerable, being really honest with your team, not trying to be a superhero that has all the answers or everything's fine in your world, because it's hard to connect with people when you try to be that way. So I really try to, I always call it care and candor. I try to be direct and, share information, even though sometimes it may be hard to hear, but also let them know that I truly, deeply care about what's going on. And that way they really appreciate, they know they can get the straight talk and transparency from me. The other thing I mentioned a minute ago is, if I need support or need help, then I tell them that, I just ask for that. And that has been absolutely key. The fourth thing is, there is no, what I call a roadmap for times like this, right? And so people are confused. They don't know what to do next. They're trying to figure out, how to organize their days. They're trying to figure out how to homeschool their children while they're working, a variety of things. And so what I really did is try to put some structure or routine in place for the team with a roadmap. And this one has been tricky for me, because even though I know that this is going to pass and we will get back to, it won't be normal, right? But it'll be some type of new normal. And I can see where we need to go to get us through this and get to the other side, but not everybody is in that place. I mean, many of you all have heard of like the change model, or even the model of grief when you lose someone, and everyone goes through those different curves in the change model or the grief model differently. And sometimes people revert back to other areas. So when you've got a whole team of people that you're trying to move forward and everyone's in different places and they're constantly shifting, I find that laying out this roadmap is absolutely important. So
I just want to interrupt, because you are giving us such great things to reflect on. I just want to pause for a minute and open it up to anyone, on the webinar, if you've got reflections or questions with everything that Camille has shared with us thus far.
I'll kick us off with a question, as I have a couple top of mind. Camille, so I have a friend who she's managing her team, and she's trying to get them to get on a daily call, or at least a weekly call, to check back in. Her business is closed, but she deeply cares about her team, and she wants them to know that she's there for them. The question that I have is how you motivate people to get on that call. She's finding that sometimes, although she offers the call, they're not always joining. Do you make it required required for your team? And is there any incentive or any background that you give them to get them to actually join?
So I do have a great question. I do have one required call a week on Friday morning. The other calls are all at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday, and those are not required. And so some people are getting on. I have 11 direct reports. Some people are getting on and some aren't. We also use the WhatsApp to communicate with each other. So if somebody can't get on for one reason or another, I ask that they get someone to update them or ask the team to update them on the WhatsApp. So what I'm finding is majority of people are attending because they're finding value in it, because I'm letting them bring the topics forward. It's not like I am forcing some type of agenda on them. The other thing is, if we only needed 10 minutes, we get off, right? I don't force the 30 minutes. Or there have been days where we've run over and I've negotiated for time, or just said, hey, can we continue this on the next call? But I am trying to provide flexibility, because I do have 3 different time zones in my area, and people, like I said, that are balancing a lot. So my question for her would be, are they getting value out of that? Or maybe poll them and find out what they would like to talk about, so she can include their ideas on there, which would make them want to get on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question?
If no one else has a question, I'll ask another one for you as well that could be helpful for us all. You mentioned that you do meditation in the morning, and that's a large part of how you start your day. I'm a meditator as well, and so I love when I hear you say that. But knowing that there's so many different forms of meditation, and for those of us who may be new to meditation, is there what form of meditation do you practice? And is there something that you recommend or somewhere that you recommend for people to go if they're new to meditation and they want to give it a try?
So that's a great question. And there is obviously no one right way to meditate. I've been doing it so long. Amber, all I do is I have my certain spot, my certain routine, and I sit down and I just drop into meditation. But it took years to get there. I tried a lot of different ways to meditate, and the way that actually ended up working for me was visualization. What I did, I lived in the Seattle area at that time, right by a waterfall. So I would imagine, you know, a leaf floating in the river that was right by my house. And when I had a thought, which was very frequently, I would put the thought on the leaf and let it continue to float down the water. And then, you know, I would continue to do that. So there were a lot of leaves all together in the river because I had a lot of thoughts. But what I found over time was the leaves were getting further apart. And so it's about being gentle with yourself and being patient. It takes time. Just show up every day, whether it's 5 minutes, just keep showing up, and eventually it will happen. So that's the way it worked for me. I've heard other people, like, you know, put their thoughts on clouds. And then over these, you know, 20, 30 years I've been doing this, there have been times in my life that there was a lot going on that I couldn't meditate for a long time. And then there have been other times that I could meditate for 30 minutes or an hour. So again, it's having no expectations, just showing up and, you know, allowing yourself to have some quiet time.
I have a question. So this whole environment of working remotely, you know, whether we have a small team or you that, you know, have 11 direct reports and certainly 100 people as part of your team. So for any of us on the call, depending upon how big or small our teams are, without the benefit of traditionally seeing people to be able to sort of read body language, how should a leader effectively be tapping into the emotional state of their team to sort of, you know, be an active listener or receptive? How do you do that when you're working remotely?
Is that question to me, Michelle, or are you sending
to you?
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
and I'll let anyone else who has any thoughts on it chime in as well.
Yeah, I currently am field-based. So I live in California, and I have people, like I said, that work for me in 13 other states. And so I'm used to working virtual. Even though I've met them and have relationships with them that have set a foundation, I'm used to working virtual. So I don't know that I'm going to have the best answer for that. I can try. My husband is now working from home. He works at NASA, and he's used to an office environment. So I'm observing, how he's adapting and how he's being challenged. And it's definitely very different than what I'm experiencing since I've been a virtual worker.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something specific you'd like me to touch on, or would you like to open it up to someone else that's used to working in an office?
Yeah. I mean, I have a thought about that just as a coach myself, and having a number of clients who as leaders are grappling with that, but I certainly wanted to get your perspective. But let me just open it up to, anyone else on the call today, if they have any experience of what they're expecting of their leader or what they're doing as a leader to sort of, tap into emotions and not just, sort of task or project updates. Any shares? Laquana?
Yes, we have had to start the daily calls. Unfortunately, a lot of it is project based. But prior to us talking about any projects or tasks, I am checking in on self-care that was done the day before, and stretching the team of what self-care can they do for today, that allows that conversation to open up. Also touching base individually, and just really having that one-to-one conversation on their needs versus not just the task at hand. Many of my team, well, all of my team, our worlds have meshed overnight. So our home life has now become our job life, and job life has now become our home life. So really talking about what is the work-life balance, and what feelings, emotions that has brought up for them. So I've been trying to do it that way. I did a large, I guess, PD, we call it a professional talk for 2 schools, just to talk about some of this, which was uncomfortable when you're talking about feelings, right? And what's going on with you. But it was a needed conversation. So I'm hoping to continue to open those conversations for us to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michele,
Yes.
to address the expectations from your leaders, I am on a team of about 15 to 20 folks, talent. I work in the field of radio. Let me just be very blunt about it. I work in radio, and right now radio is considered an essential service to disseminate information. But one of the expectations in information is to have it balanced with the humanity side of what we're all going through. It's troubling and challenging when leaders who have a platform and take the stage and just share information. It's just a downloading an output of info. Stuff that we all know about. We've heard it a gazillion million times, but it needs to be, I believe, countered or cut with some inspiration. Where's the humanity perspective of what would, just simply asking, do you know anyone who has been impacted by COVID-19, who's died from COVID-19? What are you going through? I feel like sometimes in the quest to inform and to download, it's a monologue and it's not truly a dialogue. And if leaders could understand that they have to provide opportunities for their team members, for their constituents to have a story to tell as well, I think the inspiration and the humanistic touch will kind of mitigate info. That's what I'd like to see.
Oh, That is absolutely perfect. You know, it's interesting. You're right, because to some extent, this is impacting everyone by asking the question, you know, how is this impacting and who do you know? Certainly brings the humanity and may get into, you know, it may be a loved one. It could be someone in their household that, you know, has contracted it. And to be able to allow them to process that has the leader seem more authentic and caring, but it also allows the individual to really sort of share that part of what's impacting either their productivity or their performance, you know, while they're working. That's a really good point.
That's why I think, Camille, your suggestion of having the calls is so genius, and just letting people have a place to be heard and not feeling like there's an agenda. That is such a mindful leader technique, and where I'm very inspired by that. And Lamanda, I can hear the mindful leader in you as well. So I'm just so glad that we're having this conversation. We had a question from, or a comment. Afia, do you want to take it away? Hop on in.
Oh yeah, I was everything that everyone's doing. It's kind of like I'm doing it. So I'm doing the calls. I'm checking in with people. One thing I wanted to add, so if anyone's kind of, I guess we call it structured. One of the things that I do, and I'll just do it real quick, but I have a piece of paper every day that I pull out because I'm building a team. So I'm able to bring people on, people who haven't had jobs, who aren't working, to get them licensed. I work in finance. So like Lamanda, like am I saying your name, Lamanda? Am I saying your name correctly? Yeah. So like her, we're considered essential. Now, in my opinion, like I do think we're essential, but not in the same realm, at least, you know, as other fields. But I keep a list because I write down all my teammates, right? And each day I'm kind of checking like who's engaged, who's not engaged. And the other day I did a list of everybody, like teammates I've had now, but then also teammates who haven't really been around because they're dealing with whatever space they're in, because everyone's not dealing with the same. I'm loving it, to be quite honest. I'm an introvert, so this is like my dream of being home and doing this. But the list helped me because I felt like there were days that I would try to go to bed and I'd realize, oh my God, I never checked in with this person. And it's just so important to check in with people that it's just like, because even Amber, remember I called you the other day, like, how are you doing, right? I can't go to sleep. So I had to start, and I don't know if this is gonna help people, but I had to start keeping lists. And I have like a white piece of paper that I start the day with a list of teammates, but now I'm finding that there's other things that are on there because we do really important things that need to be taken care of in the moment now. And then also having the conversation, a lot of people just weren't ready for this. So I think this conversation is really important because it's hard for me to, I had a hard time being where I needed to be to have the conversation with people that did not prepare in a way that we discussed for this. So it's like I have to empathize, but then also find a medium where I do have to push them because it's like, this is imperative for you and your family. So any of the coaches, Camille, you were on a good run with us. And I know it has to do with personality. I'm very direct. But what techniques could you recommend for someone like me or anyone else on the call that's like me that kind of has to really push people? Otherwise, there could be hugely negative consequences, maybe even for their career, maybe for their family, if they don't take action and they're stuck.
Yeah, Fia, I think that's a really good point, especially if you're direct, right? I'm like that too. And I've had to, even before this started, very intentionally find a way to build culture with my team. You know, I've worked hard to become an inspirational leader. And one of the things that I did before this even started was on that standing Friday call I have with my leadership team. We've had that for a long time. The other calls during the day are what's new. But we had, before we set up the agenda, and then we had 5 minutes for me, and me stands for modern employer, and it's all about creating culture. And we would rotate who had that agenda. I started it the first couple of times just to give them an idea. of what we were looking for. And then that 5 minutes, they bring in, it's really flexible and open, and they bring in all kinds of things, whether it's things about workouts or things about kids and family or holidays or just something inspirational they read. And that started building kind of a culture beyond just getting work done. What that's translated into during this COVID-19 experience has been this culture team that we've created has like stepped into high gear, and they have something set up every day, like workout Wednesday, fitness Friday. It may only be for 7 minutes, or sometimes it just, the message is go out and take a walk and take a picture and send it in, and they'll create a collage and send it out. And so I found that 5 minutes for me really gave us a foundation to be able to bring this in a daily manner during this time, to give us some of that additional non-work type connectivity. But getting back to what you're talking about, you got to push people. That's kind of that fine line and that balance, right? Like everyone's in a different place. You can't push everyone the same. And that's what I was starting to talk about, like creating this roadmap, helping people kind of see your vision of what's on the other side of this. You may not know exactly when it is, but you can help them see what's going to happen afterwards. And then, okay, you guys, now that you see that, what are the things that we need to do? What capabilities will we need? We're probably going to be, from sales standpoint, we go into doctor's offices. So from a sales standpoint, we're probably going to be remote longer than we think. So what does that mean? What does that look like? What skills do we need? And getting them to help fill in the details of that roadmap, so they don't feel like I'm just giving it to them, but they feel like they're part of it and helping create it. And what that's doing for my team is it's keeping them engaged. It's keeping them using their brains and their skills, and it also is giving them a purpose. And I think people don't know what their purpose is right now. At least that's what I'm hearing. And so if you can help them understand what their purpose is right now, and how that translates to their purpose in the future, that kind of lifts them up. And I'm finding that, putting some small measures in place or metrics in place for accountability is helping. It is putting a little stress. So it's tricky getting that right amount of stress for accountability. And so I'm having to show extreme patience and flexibility, which isn't easy for people, but at least I'm putting something out there for them to try to get to. And then I can move it back or forward. I don't know if that's helpful or addresses kind of like we're bringing up.
I just want to add to that. That's a really good point. And from a coach's perspective, this building on what Camille just made reference to, if you've ever heard of WIFM, WIIFM, what's in it for me, right? So when we're looking to motivate our team, and not necessarily come across as directive, but keeping them on track, the what's in it for me could be an open-ended question that gets to 2 points, and it sort of underscores again what Camille just made reference to. The first is, what's my purpose? With whatever my function is, what is it that I'm ultimately responsible for that matches my purpose? And then the second part of the WIFM is, what am I ultimately responsible for delivering given my function, right? So when people can get represenced to that, it's almost like they can motivate themselves, but as a leader, it may be asking that open-ended question, what's in it for you? That helps them be mindful and gets them back on track, so that you don't feel like you're pushing, but you're kind of meeting them exactly where they are.
Yeah, and the other thing that, I don't know why this popped into my mind when you were talking, Michele, but you've heard that saying, I'm sure, neurons that fire together wire together.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm finding is if I can get people starting down that path, the more that they start thinking about work again, the more it kind of gets them in the groove of continuing to move forward. So it's kind of rewiring themselves to focus on work so that they don't get so caught up and swirl in this all this news that's out there.
I'm going to throw another question out there, but let me just pause. Feel free, if you've got questions, to post them, because Amber and I are monitoring the chats. Was there something that you had to say, Amber?
No, just to add to Camille's point, it's like in positive psychology, we look at intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And by giving them a purpose, you're giving them an intrinsic motivation, something within themselves, which is much more highly motivating than something outside of themselves. That was just my 2 cents. You probably saw my face light up when she said that, because I was like, oh, that's my language.
Absolutely. All right. So the next thought that just popped into my head that I wanted to pose and have you share is about communication, right? So this is absolutely business unusual. And under normal circumstances, I know that you oversee a virtual team. They're all in the field. Some of us are working within a team where we would normally be within the same sort of, brick and mortar environment. So when it comes to communication, how does a leader ensure that their team is the information that what's happening with the organization, how the organization may be meeting the current situation, how is that trickled down? That's number one, on a consistent basis, so that they have their finger on the pulse of, what's the company's vision and how might they need to pivot. The second piece of the communication is from a employee perspective, from an associate's perspective, it's still all around personal branding. Meaning, if I'm used to being in the office and I may attend meetings with senior leaders, or I may interact with cross-functional stakeholders, when it comes time to my evaluation, I'm going to look for not only my boss to provide some feedback, but people now that I'm no longer interacting with, I'm like an absentee. So how does a team member or team leader make sure that there's communication? People know what I'm doing and what I'm contributing, and that I'm aware of what the organization is doing, so that I feel like I've got my finger on the pulse. I hope that was a simplistic enough question for you to address.
Yeah, I think 2 parts, if I got the question right. Part of it is, how do you cascade the direction and priorities down from headquarters down to the sales rep through the layers? I think that was one. And I think the other I heard was, people that are wanting to, that are working and wanting to get recognized for their performance review, how do they make sure that a broad group is seeing that and they're continuing to be able to network? Is that the other piece?
Yes.
Okay, let me start with the first one. All the vice presidents get on a call every Monday morning, and we talk about what's going on. We align on the direction, and we give our leader feedback. One of the things that I've always been good at, just luckily, is simplicity. And I never focus my team on more than 2 or 3 things. So what I do personally for my areas, I take what is being communicated to me from headquarters, and I simplify it and try to, what I call, clear the clutter. And I take it down to the team. And so right now, I'll give you the 3 things that I've told them. Number 1 is take care of yourself and your family. Number 2 is make sure you're staying connected to your customers. And we want to come out of this with a better relationship with our customers than we went into it. And number 3 is take this opportunity to build skills and capabilities for yourself so that you'll be better at your work than you were when you went into this situation. And so there's a lot of things that can fall under those 3 categories, but that's how I have people prioritizing. And if they're doing anything outside of that, then it doesn't need to be done, so they can clear the clutter. Does that answer the first question?
Yeah. I just wanted you to be able to kind of share those insights for any of us on the call that, it might be relevant.
I have, because I want to stay connected with not just my leadership team, but all 100 people, I have set up every third week right now. I don't know what it's going to look like. Things are changing, right? But every third week to get on a call with all 100 in the area. And I turn my video on, right? So they can see me, and I tell them, hey, you guys, I miss you all. You know, I want to see you. I hope you're doing well. Like, I'm trying to connect with all of them the best I can. Luckily, I know them all. I'm a leader that, you know, has gotten to know every single person. When we do have live meetings, or I talk to them, get to know them and their families. I have all their birthdays and anniversaries on my calendar, and I always either text them or email them or call them. So I do know all of them. And so it's easier for me to feel connected to them through this. So that's another way that I'm getting that message out there to everybody. The other piece is a little more difficult when you think about, you know, how am I going to be evaluated at the end of this? Because the work that we're doing may be different than the work that we were supposed to be doing. What I continue to reinforce to people is that we will do the right thing. And it may be that we don't have a mid-year review this year. We don't know. We may wait till the end of the year because things will level out then. The other thing that I'm doing is, as some really great stories are coming in about people connecting with customers, we are sharing that information across the entire area, and then also up to the senior leadership. And I copy the people on it so they can see their names going up to senior leadership and that they're getting recognized. And so I think that that's giving them comfort that, you know, they aren't being forgotten out there, and every little thing that they're doing is making a difference.
That's huge. That is absolutely huge. I know you shared with me that that's sort of a best practice. You make sure that the senior leaders are aware of what your team is doing, not only collectively, but individually, and not just waiting for the formal, you know, performance review period, but keeping that ongoing. Yeah.
Camille, can you share those 3 points? Is it stay safe, take care of your families, and stay close to your customers? And the third point, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I'll elaborate a little bit. So it's take care of yourself and your family, and that means something different for everybody. I've got a lot of mothers that are trying to homeschool right now, and fathers. And so that's putting a whole level in. We've got people that have family members in the ICU, right, that are sick. That brings a whole new level. So just a variety of things, but it's whatever you need to do to stay safe and take care of yourself and your family. The second one is this whole connecting with customers and then coming out with a relationship that is better than you went in. You know, if you call a healthcare worker, they may, you know, or a doctor, they may not want to talk to us right now. And that's okay. We do not want to push that. And so what I have the team doing is reaching out to their customers, really using EQ or soft skills to say, hey, I'm here. It must be a tough time. What do you want from me? Here's how to get in contact with me. And then I have them kind of categorizing the customers or segmenting them. And is the customer ready to talk to us now? Will they be ready soon? Do they say, hey, call me back in a couple weeks? Or are they like totally not ready at all? You know, I call that ready later. And then we're trying to figure out, because this is all new, right? Our customers wanted to talk to us before. And then I have us categorizing, you know, well, if a customer is ready now, why are they ready now? And what are some of the things they want to talk about? Because it's like a whole different dialogue. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, what skills do I need myself to be better and that I can work on during this? And it could be how to, you know, use Zoom, how to use WebEx technology. It could be how to improve my listening skills. It could be how to improve EQ. Or some people aren't good at analyzing sales data, and we have time now to teach them how to really dig in and use their business acumen and understand their sales data. So there's a lot of things that they could be doing. Where I'm going next, I haven't told them yet, but where I'm going next is in a couple weeks, I'm going to have them start working on what their reentry plan is, right? To help them start thinking of the future. But right now, I'm just trying to get them to build the skills so that they can do the work in this new world now before we start working on the future. Does that answer your question? Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
One thought I wanted to present to you to have you share what you're doing with your team. And that's bringing levity, meaning how do you ensure that you're bringing fun or that the team is doing fun things in addition to, trying to keep the level of productivity and performance at whatever level it needs to be? What kind of fun stuff can a leader bring to the equation?
Well, I talked about that modern employer team earlier, the culture team that is, they've got something set up every day of the week. They reached out to their, all 100 people and said, hey, what do you want? Some people said, I want to know what to do with my 401k. And so we said, hey, is there anyone in the area that would be able to talk to the area about this, the people that are interested? Not that you're going to give them advice, but just talk about it. So we gathered topics, and then people were volunteering their expertise and they're sharing. And so that is one thing we're doing. It's not mandatory. It's all published. And so that is one thing we're doing fun. And then I swear the WhatsApp has just been amazing during this time because people start sharing funny pictures, or I don't know, some people even, yeah. So, but they're just having fun, joking, taking pictures at home about what's going on.
I know you had shared sometimes you guys are coming up with a particular recipe and that everyone's sort of making that recipe and then coming in on a call, whether it's around lunchtime or, right? Isn't that something that you guys have sort of?
Yes, we've shared multiple recipes. The biggest hit was a chicken tikka masala recipe, which I'm a vegetarian, so I use tofu, but so people will share the recipe. Everyone will go out and cook it that week and take pictures, and then they're all sharing about that. So it's different foods, exercises, nature, things that they're doing with homeschooling, lists of Netflix movies to watch. I mean, it's just they're sharing their personal lives. So we are getting to know each other on a very different level.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, especially now, because, we're so stressed out and there's so many questions that we don't have answers to, and we don't know when this is going to end and when life will return to normal, if it ever returns to normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, bringing a bit of that humanness to how we work within a team or how we lead, I think is huge now, and hopefully is what will be transferred, that when we do go back to potentially what our new normal might look like, we're keeping that balance of, being people first and being employees second. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, to that point, one thing that team also did is we have a random acts of kindness day. And so we asked people to share what random act of kindness they've done. And that has really been a big hit as well, because people will, maybe get groceries for an older neighbor, or, send some money to GoFundMe to have some nurses get some food, or doctors, a variety of things. But sometimes it's just very small random acts of kindness. Mm-hmm. So that's something that the team has done. We've also focused a lot on gratitude and how to feel thankful ourselves for small things, which is really making a huge difference in positivity with people. Amber, you'll probably like this one. We talked about, do you know Rick Hansen? He's here in Berkeley, California, and he's kind of a positive neuroscience guru, and he wrote this book called Buddha Brain, which is about neuroplasticity. And one of the quotes in that book is about your brain is like Velcro for all the negative stuff. It sticks, but it's like Teflon for the positive stuff, which we would hope it would be the other way. So we talked about that as an area, and talked about how we can use gratitude to kind of try to reverse it and get the positive stuff to stick a little bit more. So
that's great. Yeah, we have a negativity bias naturally as humans, and so just hearing all of the positivity that you implement in your leadership, I can imagine that being a part of your team is somewhat of a comforting experience through this, and that you're giving people something to look forward to, even if they don't have things to look forward to in their daily lives outside of work. So I applaud you and celebrate you for that, for sure.
Oh, thanks. I'm
Yeah.
learning as I go, muddling through it.
You're still a leader. So we've got about 10 minutes before we end the webinar, and I just want to pause for a moment and allow any of you to unmute yourself or raise your hand if you've got thoughts or additional questions that you want to pose to Camille or Amber or I, things that may not have been covered or questions that may have bubbled to the surface.
Yeah, we've got a question from Stephanie. I see your hand raised, so go ahead and unmute. Okay.
Yes, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. I bring you greetings from Harlem, New York. That's my official tag that I say on all of my Zoom. So, I hope everyone is well and healthy mentally, spiritually, and physically. So important. With that being said, my question to Camille, thank you so much for this. I'm taking notes. I'm taking screenshots. What do you do about COVID fatigue overload? And there's no way to really escape it. You want to know what you want to know about what's going on in the world, because you want to know. You don't want to be the last one to know, But how do you balance the saturation of information and how it obviously will affect you as a leader as well as your team? What is there a magic formula? What do you do? Because it's real.
Thanks, Stephanie. And you're right in the midst of the ground zero there, right? So
yeah, we win the blue ribbon epicenter. New Yorkers are very competitive. Yay, us. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I hope you are doing well. I don't know that there's a magic bullet on this one, but it's, to me, self-discipline. I'm very intentional about a lot of things. And on this, I'm very intentional about when I allow myself to take in the information. This has been something I've had to work on throughout my whole career, is time management. And the first time I had to apply this was when I went through a course called the Energy Workshop. And I identified that I was losing a lot of time by just looking at my email whenever it came in. And what I did at that time is I scheduled 2 times a day to check my email. And that sounds crazy. People are like, you really do that? And I do. And I do the same thing with, this information on the coronavirus. I started out that I would look in the morning and the afternoon. I thought that would work. And what I found was by looking at it in the morning, it influenced my whole day. So now what I've set up is time in the afternoon after work, before dinner, to get caught up on what's going on. And that's it. No other time. I'm being self-disciplined, just like my email. So if during the day someone says something, I'll go, I'm not up to date because I only check it 1 time a day. And that's what I find is working for me. So I don't know if that is the kind of answer you're looking for. I don't know if it's a silver bullet, but that's what I have found works for me.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in on that too, Stephanie. It's the importance of our morning rituals, our morning routines, especially right now when we've lost so much of the rest of our routine, is just a really important part of your day. And if you have a hard start and you wake up and you get into the news and you consume that first thing, then that's helping to set your energy for the rest of the day. And so that was a part of why I really celebrated when Camille mentioned meditation. That could look different for you if you don't like to meditate and maybe you want to exercise, or maybe you want to walk, or maybe you want to pray, or maybe you want to say affirmations in the morning. But coming up with a morning ritual of what you're doing in the morning to start your day off sets the tone for the rest of your day. And so, to Camille's point about checking the news later on in the day, that psychologically has a different effect on us, because we're not starting our thoughts off from that point of view. We're starting from a place of grounding and centering ourselves, or exercising, feeling good, or eating something healthy, instead of starting with the negativity that's on the news. The news is going to be there, and not that that's how you're starting your day. A lot of people are getting up and they're going right to social media and they're going right to the news. And so many of the experts will tell you, do not not pick your phone up first thing in the morning. Like, I don't usually pick my phone up until a half hour to an hour after I wake up, because it's just, I don't need to start my day with that. And I recognize that the intention being, as Camille spoke to, being intentional about that, your rituals and your routines in the morning really, really makes a difference in the rest of your day.
You know, Amber, one other thing to this point that you just triggered as you were talking is when I shifted to only listening in the afternoon and I get on the phone with people and they start talking about it and I'm not up to date, I find that our conversations focus more on them and what they're dealing with and less on all this news. I didn't even realize it until you just said that, and I started reflecting through my conversation. So it's been actually been a positive, and I've been a role model by not looking at the news in the morning. And I think it's improved my, the content of my conversations and the way we connect.
Yeah. So as we close things down, I just, this has been so helpful and useful. And as an executive coach myself, one of the sort of themes and threads that I'm picking up on is, it's not about being perfect. It's just about being present, right? I mean, if we just synthesize so much of what Camille has shared with us, all of the actions, all of the behaviors, it's bringing our human side to work, and it's not just about the tasks and the projects. I mean, those things have to happen, but most importantly, if there's anything that we're going to positively take away from this experience and build a new muscle, it's to really recognize that, people matter, and the human, authentic, vulnerable, self-care part of us, we actually can give others permission to do the same, and maybe we can present and provide a bit of equilibrium so that whole work-life balance is no longer an issue that people really kind of grapple with. So thank you, Camille. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Amber, you want to share with those on the group? I mean, we're doing this on a weekly basis. You want to kind of close it out and let them know what's coming down the pike?
You read my mind, Michele. Of course I do. So thank you all for joining us. And again, Camille, thank you so much for all of what you shared with us. With your permission, we will share some of the tips and a recap in a follow-up email after this with everyone. And we'll also share your social media information and LinkedIn on how to find you. So we're very grateful for your advice and for sharing with us. So we have coming up, if you missed April 1st or April 1st last week, you can find, or March 23rd, you'll be able to find on both my website and soon on Michelle's website as well, a replay of those topics that we're coping while working remotely and dealing with COVID, a physician's perspective. This will also be up for replay. So if you know someone that couldn't make it and you want to share it with them, we'll provide a replay link. Next week, we'll be talking about financial security in uncertain times. And we're going to talk about how not to live paycheck to paycheck. We'll talk about real estate and investments and what's right to focus on right now, and also about life insurance and wills. On the 22nd of April, the following Wednesday, we'll talk about breaking bad habits. The following Wednesday after that, on the 29th, we're going to have a two-part series that starts then on how to update your resume and pursue a purposeful career. So right now, we know that there are some people who have been laid off or who are looking for other work and have time to think about what they're doing and go, okay, this is not for me. So we have a two-part series there that should be very, very helpful for you. On May 13th, we'll talk about living on purpose. On the 20th, we'll have some home workouts to help get in shape for the summertime. And we're going to have a couple of instructors on here. So you can put on it'll be a little different that day. We'll have a little discussion, but you can put on your workout gear and come join us for a little digital or virtual workout. And then we have a few more great topics moving forward, but I'm going to encourage you to go to the webinar link where you used to sign up for today to keep track of what we have going on, and also to follow Michele and myself on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. And if you haven't already, to sign up for our newsletters. Michele can be reached at, what's your handle? Into Action Coaching, Michele?
What handle?
Your handle, how they find you on Facebook and Instagram.
Well, Into Action Coaching.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Into Action Coaching.
Into Action with a U, INTU Action Coaching, and I am the Flow Coach, or Quartz Wellness, QUARTZ Wellness. Camille, do you want to share your how people can reach you while we're live before we go?
I'm not really big on social media, so I am on LinkedIn. It's just Camille J. Sun, if you want to send out that link, but yeah, that's it.
Great.
And if you can, with what you're finding valuable and beneficial, please, we ask that you pay it forward and invite those and share the links to others, because we're going to continue doing this. And obviously we've got the capacity, given technology, to, increase the community. So please spread the word, and let's increase, the number of people that can participate on these weekly webinars. Stay safe and serene, everyone.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Michele and Amber. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Camille. Awesome insights. We really appreciated your time and effort.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.